Hello, beautiful human beings. Welcome back to the Ryan Magic Show. I'm super psyched to have you here. I love doing these solo episodes for you. And today I'm going to be talking about four massive blocks that stop new entrepreneurs, coaches, passion-fueled business owners from breaking through to being able to do what they love full time. And the way I'm going to approach this is by talking about four intangible pieces. So, in other words, mindset pieces that make it very difficult for them to get in flow, for you to get in flow, and to be able to do what's needed to get this business working. I really believe it's possible if you really desire to have a successful business. It's so possible. But there are key things that I've witnessed within entrepreneurs time and time again from working with over 1,000 entrepreneurs. They just repeat the same issues and they're very internal problems, not so much external. From teaching so many people exactly what to do technically and strategically and tactically with ads and sales calls and all the details, I've seen that the difference between those that succeed and fail has got very little to do with them having all the skills. It's more about their mindset approach. And I'm going to talk about four blocks that I just see just all the time. And they're blind spots because it takes like a different viewpoint to be able to see it. So anyway, we're going to get into this in a moment. Before we do, if you haven't reached out to me yet and bridged the gap between being a consumer of my content and actually reached out to say hi, I'd love to connect. So if you haven't ever connected with me before, please just send me an email. Ryan@ryanmagic.com is my personal email. Reach out, say hi, let me know how my content, if it has impacted you, how so, because if I have the chance to receive love or to know that what I'm doing makes a difference, it's very beautiful fuel for me because I don't get to see it with this podcast. It's an intangible thing. It's not like I'm in front of you coaching you and I can see you transform before my eyes. I'm just teaching here and into a computer. There's a computer in front of me. So please reach out to me at the Ryan Magic on Instagram. That's my handle, the Ryan Magic, or shoot me a message, Ryan@ryanmagic.com, an email. Cool. Now that I've said that, let's dive into this. The first big block that I see is that people get stuck in fear. So the first one's relevant to getting stuck in fear, not because fear exists, because that's always going to exist, but getting stuck in a fear response: fight, flight, freeze, appease. I'm going to go into what they each look like as an entrepreneur. And then after I go through this, I'm going to give you three big blocks in perspective that cause people to go into fear way more. Okay. So the first one, getting stuck in fear. The thing that causes fear, not being stuck, but just causes you to feel it initially, is the fact that business is a environment of trigger central, trigger city, because we experience our three primary fears get activated from business on a daily basis. The three programmed fears that we have in our psychology are fear of like safety being jeopardized. I call it fear of harm. So that's not having food or shelter or being physically hurt. Because business takes money or takes time in which we often go away from a full-time job, we feel the fear of the pinch. What if it doesn't work? What if like I'm running out of money? What if my savings, my runway is not long enough and I go broke and I waste all my money and I can't survive? What if I don't have food and shelter? Gets activated a lot. The second one is fear of change, which is programmed into us. We have these programs from tribal days. If you went into a neighboring territory, new lands, and you're exploring around, you could get speared to death by a neighboring tribes person. You could eat a new plant you've never seen before and it could kill you. If you touch a new animal, it could bite you and you could die. So because we didn't have hospitals and things like that, We've got these programs to attempt to keep us safe in the wild, but they just don't help us now. But regardless, fear of harm, fear of change, and fear of rejection, which is the biggest one, is programmed into us for us to just get along with everyone in our tribe so they don't kick us out and we don't die by ourselves in the wild. It's not like that now. You could get rejected on a call and it doesn't necessarily risk your livelihood. If you could say you're singing in public and someone tells you to shut up, you don't die. Like, it's fine. The person's just having a bad day and you get on with life. But we feel like it will. We feel like we're going to die. And so we go into fear. We have fear triggered every day as a business owner with fear of rejection, change, and harm, because everything we do at the start of the business is new. Everything that we do involves putting ourselves out there, especially if we're in coaching, and or some kind of like new age business, like being an influencer or a YouTuber. Rejection is just like, fear of rejection is hugely triggered, often triggered. Every day it's triggered. So when we get triggered into fear, we respond in different ways. We can go into fight, flight, freeze, or appease. Okay. And so what fight looks like as an entrepreneur is overworking, busyness, force, hustle, but really unproductive. So you might notice some of these things that I'm about to say, but I see this all the time. Someone's in fear, they're scared for their livelihood, or they're trying something new, but they're working really hard. They're keeping themselves so busy and they're forcing and desperate. Desperation is the energy, desperately trying to make it work. And that is not an effective way to approach business. Just because you're busy, it doesn't mean anything about being a successful business owner. You need to have a phenomenal product and you need to put yourself out there to get new clients. Those are the two things. So market and sell, as well as having an amazing product. So being busy and working heaps on your logo or your website or planning what you're going to do with the business and stuff, none of that makes any difference to your bottom line. Putting yourself out there, ad campaigns, promotional stuff, marketing, all takes courage. And that's where you're going to get results. But when someone goes into fight, they'll get really busy and not really accomplish anything. And people do this for ages and then they end up burning out. So that's the fight response. The flight, I'm going to start with freeze actually. Fight, flight, freeze. So freeze is when someone just procrastinates. So you're feeling scared, you just go into freeze. You just stop working and distract yourself and numb out and avoid doing what you need to do. This is all freeze, the freeze response. Well, you're going to have to put your seminar on to get clients, but it's so scary because the fear of rejection is so massive and you've never done it before. So fear of change is massive there as well because it's new and everything's new when you start your business, that you go into freeze and just procrastinate all the time. This is a massive block because it's going to happen every day. And if you get stuck in procrastination, nothing's going to happen. Flight is the chopping and changing of what you do, the losing of focus. You might have a certain marketing strategy that you're doing, and then the flight response when you get into fear is, oh, let's do something else. Or that campaign didn't work, now we try something else. This product line, maybe we should do this instead. And it's just constantly changing, chopping, changing, distraction, chopping, changing. That is super destructive for results. Busyness and non-productivity, fight is destructive. Freeze, just going into procrastination, super unproductive. It doesn't help at all. And then going into flight and chopping and changing, you need to do something over and over again to get good at it, to start to see great results. And then lastly, appease is bringing pleasing into it. That is overgiving, trying to make your product too good, making it perfect because you're afraid that they won't like it. And so you're making it so good. You're trying to get your brand so awesome so it looks good, so you're likable. It's prioritizing likability above results. It's, I'm going to discount myself massively all the time. I'm going to undervalue my service. And people go into this massively. It's also not being honest because you're afraid of getting rejected on sales calls, not being direct and strong with your message, but just beating around the bush with your marketing and content creation. And so that truth, it's the refraining from telling the truth and being honest and direct and strong in character. And that's very important for a business owner. So if you notice that fight, flight, freeze, appease, procrastination, chopping and changing, uh, overworking, but busyness and not really being that productive, or just being a pleaser, if you notice those things coming up for you, it means you're in fear. It means fear is happening. And if you weren't having fear triggered, you probably would have a successful business. But fear is the biggest block that I've ever seen for any entrepreneur in getting results initially. And like I said, I've worked with so many entrepreneurs. This is coming from an insight of having over 1,000 coaches that I've worked with right at the start of their journey or in the first few years of their journey, and they haven't broken through yet. And why? Why have they not broken through? And I've seen fear is the only thing that stops people. It's the biggest thing that stops people. And so what's the antidote to that? Well, there are two, I'm going to say. One is learn to be courageous. And that is very important, AKA self-plug time. Come to my Art of Courage workshop. I was able to do over $10 million in my business because I learned to navigate fear. I learned to change my relationship to it and learned to be courageous as a quality. I did fear challenges all the time. And I promise you, that is the main thing that I did to be successful in as a business owner. And then all the skills came off the back end of courageous action. It's always courage first. And then by being courageous, I learned. And that made me more effective. So courage is needed when confidence isn't there. Confidence is only there with repetition. So confidence is actually just comfort. You get confident on sales calls by doing lots of sales calls. You get confident with Facebook ads by doing lots of Facebook ads. You get confident speaking by doing lots of speaking. But that confidence isn't there when you do it the first time, which is when is hardest to do it. So courage is there when confidence isn't. Courage is there, is needed right at the start of doing things. And that's when you get blocked because you're afraid to start. Afraid to start your marketing, afraid to start promoting, afraid to tell people about your thing, pitch it, afraid to jump on a sales call, afraid to launch, afraid to tell people. It's all the putting yourself out there thing. And so if you don't know how to be courageous and you haven't built that skill yet, you need to prioritize courage intentionally on a daily basis to start to put yourself out there, get your business out there, get your product out there. That's what's needed to literally be courageous daily. The problem is you feel like you are going to die. That's why you procrastinate. That's why you chop and change. That's why you stay really busy and in fight, going crazy desperation, but not making any progress. That's why you go into please, because you think in your body you're going to die. Your body's telling you, I'm going to die. Adrenaline and cortisol is being pumped from the sympathetic nervous system to warn you, danger, danger, don't do this. So you need to learn to be courageous. And if you don't have that, like one of the values of an entrepreneurial organization I was in, that you had to be doing $1.5 million minimum in your business to qualify. And the guys that I would catch up with, the 7 other dudes on a monthly basis in an intimate group where I became lifelong best friends with them all for multiple years, catching up monthly, retreats every year together. They did between $8 and $150 million a year. And one of the core values was be bold. You had to be bold to even qualify to go in but everyone already was to get to that point in their business. That's how they got there. So courage is massive, AKA come to my workshop, the Art of Courage workshop. I will explain fear super in depth and I will teach you how to overcome it, not in a way of hypey, Braveheart style running in, but how do you connect to your heart? Because courage comes from the Latin root word cor, which means heart. So if you're courageous, you're coming from your heart. If you're desperately trying to force yourself to make something happen, that's fear. That's fear-based. So I'll teach you to wholesomely approach fear by being courageous in a sustainable way. So if you want to find out more about that workshop, go to ryanmagic.com and then there's a page under the Work With Me tab called Courage Workshop. And I do a video on there explaining what I go through because I'm teaching a whole modality that I created over 3.5 years called the CORE method. So I would love to completely change your life by teaching you to be courageous because being courageous completely changed my life. So anyway. Come to that if you want to learn to overcome fear. So that is the first reason that people fail when they're struggling to transition in their new business, right? These next three things are false perspectives on what the journey could and should look like that massively block people's ability to break through. The first one is, this big block is that people underestimate the time taken to break through, aka lack patience. People lack patience, especially in new age businesses like coaching, your e-commerce store, YouTubing, influencer, being an influencer, all these different types of new style of businesses. There is no roadmap that's been marked out for these kind of people, unlike all the other established career options that you have that you go to university to get into. Think about accounting, for example. When you get into becoming an accountant, you do a degree. You probably have to wait 6 months to start it. You do it, takes 4 years. You then get placed into a job. You find an entry-level job, $50K a year. It'll take you 10 years to get to 100 grand as an accountant. But you expect that because you know the path. Whereas the reason that we're so impatient now is because we are exposed. We're not given a path. It's new. It's unregulated. These are new. We're forging new paths. And we're bombarded by the online marketing world through social media. We're bombarded with messages left, right, and center about how great everyone's doing, how quick and easy it can be. And I want to talk briefly about the reason why this is the case. The people that you see most of their ads are people that are most successful with their ads. People that are most successful with their ads are the ones that are able to get it to work financially. So they got the cheapest leads, the best results with their marketing. That's what you're seeing. The reason that people have the best results with their marketing is because they market in a way that people respond best to, which is by appeasing all of their fears. So I'll give you some examples. The marketing that saying, I'm going to help you grow your business with blood, sweat, and tears the right way as an ad, no one's going to, it's going to be crap results. But if I say, I'm going to teach you as a coach to get to 6 figures with no experience needed, in less than 3 months, without spending a cent and without needing to cold call or put yourself out there in any way, you've just handled all the objections, the real hardship required. And that's the one that most people are going to click on. And the one that's more popular is cheaper. And they're the ones that everyone market to. So we're being bombarded with these messages online of how simple, quick, and easy it should be to be successful. But that's not true. That's just not true. You do need experience. You do need to put money into your business. It does take time. So we're being given false narratives, and that's massively impacted our expectations of how quickly we should get results in this space. And so people are impatient in their journey in business, not just because they're entitled and I want it now, although that's a part of it, but it's also because we think it should be easier. And then when you start pursuing the business and you're not breaking through, but you're seeing the evidence of all what you're seeing online is all the success stories, then it's easy to question, is there something wrong with me? Why haven't I been able to break through yet? Because all these other people seem to be doing it. I'm seeing on ads, even if you're not consciously realizing this, subconsciously, you're taking in the data of, I'm seeing that I should be able to do this, but I'm not. And so there's a problem here. And then we can get really harsh on ourselves. So I want to talk about a couple of key solutions here. One is set into the journey that you're on for the long term, as long as it's aligned, because I actually didn't put this as a point to talk about, but I'm going to talk about it now. A lot of people get into business for the wrong reasons. They think I'm not good enough and I need to be good enough. And so they try to get in to prove themselves. Then when they do get into business, the one that they try to do is the one that they think is going to work. not launching the one that's most passion fueled, most aligned for you. And so if you're not in the business that's most aligned for you, well, it's going to be very difficult to be consistent long term and sustain it. Yeah. So that's a side note. But given that that's ticked, then I would say set a 20-year expectation. There's a quote: people overestimate what's possible in the short term. They overestimate. I should get results quickly. It should be easy. Why don't I have leads yet? Why don't I have a client base yet? Why am I not making money yet? Why is it not working? Overestimate, overestimate. Why is it not happening quick? And then, but simultaneously to that, there's like there's a, you're not seeing how big you could take this. What's possible for you is bigger than what you even realize. It's just going to take longer than you think. Yeah. This happened to me. Like, I never thought initially starting out that I'd be a multi-million dollar entrepreneur and that was possible for me. I was just like, on my first day in business, I was cold calling tradies to sell them websites. And I remember thinking on the first day, because I had 7 people on my first day. I made like a lot of calls, let's say 100 calls on my first day, cold calls. And I got 7 business owners to agree for me to make them a demo website, of which was an idea that a friend gave me at the time, of which if they like the website, they can buy it. If they don't have to buy it. And then I got these 7 people's details and built them a demo website. And I thought all of these people are going to convert. And then I made the websites and I sent it to them the next day or that night. I think I made them all that day and that night, and then sent it to them and then tried to call them back, and I couldn't get onto a single one of them. And I remember being so disappointed. Like, I was expecting them all to convert on my first day. And I over months and months of cold calling, I got to a point where I could one call close someone to pay for the website on the first call, which was cool. So yeah, I learned how to sell, but my expectations were day one breakthrough. but I didn't, in the same vein, think it was even possible for me to get to a multi-million dollar entrepreneur. I thought there were only a few people in the world that were like that. I didn't realize you walk down the street and there's like $1 million business, $400,000 business, $5 million business, $3 million business, $20 million business everywhere. I didn't know there were successful business owners everywhere. So anyway, people overestimate what's possible in the short term, underestimate the long term. So I want you to actually settle into knowing that your dreams are really possible in a couple of decades, really possible. And just so you know, this is how I feel about my journey with being a coach and a speaker and a thought leader. Like, I know what I love now. I love helping people live their most fulfilled life. I love helping people know that anything's possible for them that they really care about, and helping them create that. I love doing this podcast. I love speaking. I love writing. I love this self-help space. I love this space. I love doing this. But I tell you what, I don't expect myself, I do expect at some point to be like quite an influential speaker in the world, but it might take 10 years. You know, if I'm being honest, I'm expecting it to happen in the next 10 years. But I'll show up consistently for the next 10 years. I've got 3 book ideas that I will finish and publish in the next 5 years, but I'm not expecting to make heaps of money from them. Not expecting them all to blow up and go viral. Hopefully one of the books is amazing and people love it and it becomes like a well-known book and it puts me on the map. I would love for that to happen. I just don't expect it to happen. So I want you to think 20 years of consistent effort. Where can you get as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, with your passion business? And I really want to encourage you to make sure that what you're choosing to do is something that lights you up, that you really love, that from your heart you feel the alignment to it, and you want to extract fulfillment from doing it. You're not like, I'm doing this business because I got to become a somebody and I'm currently a nobody, and if I make it, I'm going to be so awesome. All the chicks are going to love me. I'm going to be enough to attract my dream man, and life's going to be so awesome at that point. I really want you to channel in and go, what do I love doing now so I can keep doing it long term? Because I'm doing that now. I was doing my last business. I started it with passion and I ended up my insecurities molded my previous successful company. into what was most profitable. Because I loved speaking, but I designed it in a way where I did less speaking, even though that's what I love the most. So right now, I know I can make more money easily by helping business owners with business because I'm so good at it and so easy. But number one, it's not what they need. It's just what they want. So I'll be able to sell. I could sell heaps of you guys listening to this on a business course. I made $100,000 in a week last year selling this stuff. But it's not what lights me up the most because I know it's not what's needed the most. Learning to be courageous is way more important than understanding Facebook ads. But you prefer to learn that to get leads and believe the hype messages that you receive. Unfortunately, it's just the way that we're designed. It's playing off our desires. We want to avoid fear. We'll buy the thing that we think is going to help us make things the easiest. Like people don't want to buy a courage course because it means you're going to have to be courageous, which means you're going to have to embrace fear. But guess what? That's what's needed. So anyway, I'm choosing to do something that lights me up. I'm running a workshop called The Art of Courage because I love running workshops. I want people in person. I want to speak, not run a course. I could do an online virtual version. I'd rather do it in person because that's more sustainable for me and I love it. I'll make less money doing that. But long term, I'll probably make more money, but I'll definitely make less money in the short term. I could make it a course and probably charge $5,000 instead of $1,500 and make it a courage course for 3 months and probably easily get the same conversion rate. But that's not what I want to do. So I choose to do things that are aligned to me. Primarily, I care about money. I do because it's important. And I just love having more options. I love finances, but it's just not my top priority. So I really urge you to have a longer term vision, extend it out and go, if I really devote myself to coaching for 20 years, where could I be? And just entertain the possibility. That's where you're going to get some great insight and patience. Because if you go into accounting and expect it to take 10 years to get any sort of progress, why would you expect 6 figures in 6 months? As a coach, you are going to need experience. And if you really devote yourself to the journey long term, you're going to be so much better long term. You're definitely going to break through because something like coaching, you're a technician. There's a skill set there. There's a set of wisdom that you have that amplifies how much money you can receive, how valuable you are as you cultivate more. Like I'm more valuable as a coach because I've done $750,000 or more of personal development since I started 15 years ago. That's valuable. I've been in it for a long time. So it's easy for me to get high paying one-to-one clients. Not like ridiculously easy, but I always have good cash flow. So, but that's because I'm really solid at my craft. And if you've been coaching for 3 years, like maybe give yourself a bit more time. If you've just started because if you wanted to become a psychologist, right, and go to university, you got 4 to 6 years of study. If you want to become a proper clinical psychologist, 6 years of study, and you've got, wet this land, 2,000 supervised hours that you need to do. 2,000 supervised hours of practice at your craft to do it well, to go out there in the workforce. 2,000. I don't know any coaches that have done more than 50 supervised hours when they start. Crazy. It's crazy. So think about that. Someone's with a psychologist. They do their first hour of the 2,000 and they're in there. They're working with someone. They're being observed. And then after the session, they get given feedback. And then the 2 out of 2,000, the second session, they're better than the first. And the third, they're better than the second. The fourth, they're better than the third. And that happens 2,000 times. So they're damn valuable by the end of it, right? There's a long-term approach, but becoming a clinical psychologist, you're gonna you will make it if you just keep practicing. I know someone that as a nurse failed their nursing exam 6 times, but really wanted to do it and got there eventually because you're just going to get knowledgeable enough if you keep studying and practicing to be able to nail the test. If you want to get really good as a builder, you keep learning skills and you keep practicing your building skills, you're going to become phenomenal long-term. So you can, anything that's technician-based, like technical skills-based, you can make it in. It's just if you have some massive, big business idea that may or may not land in the market, that's when you have the chance of success or failure. Yeah. But most businesses, you can just get really phenomenal and make a lot of money just by being great. And you can be great by being consistent and very long-term focused. So uh, let's extend the vision to 20 years and give yourself a few years to break through. Pretend that you're in a university degree for what sort of business you want to do. And by taking consistent action, practicing learning about marketing and sales and practice putting yourself out there and feeling comfortable with that. Practice your skill set for at least the next 3 years before you expect yourself to have any results. Maybe give yourself 5 years to be able to sustain doing it full time. Is it worth 5 years of learning and growth and fun to be able to do what you love forever and for it to get better and better and for your finances to get better and better with it long term? I think so. I think so. You do it with the university to do something that oftentimes people that study at uni don't even enjoy what they end up doing afterwards. So you're willing to do it. People are willing to do it at university for something they don't love. Let's at least give yourself 3 to 5 years. And it could happen way quicker than that. But if your expectation is for it to take 5 years, you're way more set up to thrive with it. Okay. So be patient. Patience is power. When you're taking that long-term, like if I was competing against somebody as like, who's a better coach? And I was starting from scratch and they were starting from scratch. And they were like, I'm going to become a master coach in 3 months. And I'm thinking it's going to take me 20 years. I know that I'm going to just whoop them in terms of who becomes the better coach long-term. I would whoop them, right? So let's just leave that one there. Patience is power. Patience is power. And with that desperate energy and that I need to succeed yesterday kind of energy, it is a product of our time. We're sold an illusion where we're so quick focused. We're scrolling on TikTok, needing the entertainment of an entire movie instead of like waiting 2 hours or reading an entire book to get the ending. We want the result in 15 seconds of pleasure, the most dramatized, emotion-filled, entertaining bit of 15 seconds possible. We want it yesterday. And our nervous systems are getting way overstimulated, way too much adrenaline and cortisol pumping through our bodies, way too much thin film of stress in our nervous system, overactivation. That's why so many people are burning out. So anyway, be patient. That's the second one. The first block is that people are stuck in fear. The second one is that they underestimate the time taken. The third one is that they underestimate the challenge of succeeding as a business owner. I'm going to have a drink. It's good OJ, but it's actually water. So with the challenge, people, again, thanks to the same thing that I was talking about with the way that we're indoctrinated through advertising in this online marketing space, this new age business space, because people that rule marketing rule it because they're good at marketing, and the ads that we respond most to, aka the best performing ads, are the ones that minimize our need to do what actually needs to be done. Like the ads that take away our fears, because that's what is most effective. That's what you're seeing all the time. So you're seeing that it should be easy. You're seeing the case studies of $30,000 in 30 days. You're seeing all this and you're forming an association in your head. It must be easier than what it is. It's harder than what you think. I had heaps of clients that succeeded 30K in 30 days, 50K and like 200K in their first month. But they'd been at it for ages before that. They had business experience before that. The 30K that they made was sales. It wasn't necessarily profit. My course was 20 grand back then. So plus GST. So, technically they made 30 grand in 30 days. They're still behind. They still haven't profited anything yet because their cost was 20K to begin with. So they probably will actually bank 5K of that 20K because they'll probably have people drop out and not pay and all this stuff. So it's an illusion. And so we're given all this like false information that is causing us to believe that the path is going to look easy. It's harder than what you think. That's not a bad thing. You can still make it. You're going to grow so much in it. You're going to become a more capable human being with stronger character and more substance and more humility, because sometimes it can be really defeating, and it gives us so much beautiful humility and compassion to go through failure over and over again. But you're going to have to. It's going to be harder than what you think. And so an example is that because all these online marketers preach the message how to get leads without having to spend a cent on advertising and without feeling spammy and all this stuff, then when people actually come into their world to want to work with them, instead of being able to tell them the truth of and allow them to take the responsibility of what's actually needed for them to break through, they kind of got to play around and please the person because they've sold them an inflated fantasy result. So now when they're scared, the internet marketer is like, it's going to be okay. We're going to get results. It's going to work. And the person's like, how do we know? And they're like, trust me. And they put so much time and effort. Let's say someone's launching a Facebook ad. They might spend 6 weeks creating that Facebook ad and so much pressure on the result because they're expecting it to work because they've got these inflated ideas of how quickly everything should work. So people are going in, they're putting so much pressure on the results of everything that they do because they're underestimating the challenge and they're over pressurizing the outcomes they're going to get quickly. And so people put so much effort in. They're expecting this Facebook ad to work. It's got to work. They're desperately attached to it working. They're terrified it's not going to work because then what if that means that their business was never meant to break through and their dreams aren't possible and there's so much pressure? Then after spending 6 weeks, having all this branding for this marketing campaign, professional videography for the video that goes in it, thousands of dollars later, hundreds of hours later of effort, it's probably not going to work anyway because no one's good at marketing when they start. Whereas what I used to do with my old clients is I would tell them it's going to take you 10 marketing campaigns until you start getting any results. Don't expect to get anything from your first 9. Just don't. You're going to suck. You're actually going to suck. How are you going to be good at something you've never done before? So I'm telling you, you're going to have to launch 10 marketing campaigns to break through. And I'm going to challenge you to do that in your first month. So while the other person who's desperately attached, terrified it's not going to work, so much effort goes into their webinar, so much effort goes into the video promoting it. They've bought all the cameras, they've bought all the software, they've got all the branding, the logos, everything's perfect. But they suck at marketing, so it doesn't break through because they're not expecting challenge. They want to avoid challenge. They're underestimating the challenge. And so then when it arises, it completely throws them. 6 weeks of all this effort and no result on their first campaign. They were expecting it to work though. Then they're super defeated. So then they're like, oh my gosh, well, what do I do now? Well, I guess I'm going to have to try again. But then they're now wounded. So instead of 6 weeks for their second campaign, it takes them 10. Then when the next that campaign launches, 16 weeks in now to the journey, 4 months into the journey of marketing, and they've only done 2 campaigns versus my clients have done 10. I don't do this anymore, by the way. I don't have this course, but in the past, my clients have done 10 campaigns in the first 4 weeks. They've done 2 over 16 weeks. My clients aren't expecting, but their third one works and they break through, or their fifth one works and they break through, or their eighth one works and it breaks through, and they feel good. They're keeping on going because they're expecting it. They still feel defeated when it doesn't work temporarily, but they're realigned to the truth of what they know, which is, oh, it's going to take 10. But if someone takes 16 weeks in their second campaign, what if that doesn't work? Their second one. They were defeated after the first one. Now they're really bummed. Now they're thinking, oh my gosh, what's going on? Or I'm meant to have clients now. Is there something wrong with me? Is there something wrong with the business? Why is this not working? And they feel mega deflated, super overwhelmed. Probably, and that's if someone even has the courage to try launching a marketing campaign in the first place. Like that's even an outlier. But then the person tries, doesn't work. Now, what are they feeling? They're super defeated. They're probably going to stop marketing for a while. If they do a third one though, and that doesn't work, my gosh, they might even quit their whole business because their expectations are being unmet because they were inflated to begin with, because people underestimate the challenge needed to succeed in business. Everyone does this. I've worked with over 1,000 coaches, new business owners. I mentor people in this space all the time. And people are massively bummed when stuff doesn't work because they're expecting it should work. And as a result, they're terrified that this is just going to show them that they're not going to get results. And this is proving that they're not cut out for it. And yeah, really, really deflated. And that's dangerous. That's really dangerous. So what we actually need to do here is we need to get clear and expect there to be a lot of challenge. Expect it's going to take you some time. And what I recommend doing for that is you write down all the things that could go wrong in your business. Just try to think of as many things that could go wrong as possible and write them all down. So, like, I'll give you an example of how I applied this. I knew I wanted to do seminars. I wanted to be a speaker when I was at 21, starting out as a coach. And I was terrified to do speaking. I'd never done speaking before. And so because remember I said, the first block that I spoke about in this whole podcast is that people get stuck in fear. But I said, number 2, 3, and 4 I'm going to go through will help you feel fear less. Not fearless, but just less often you'll feel fear. And so by understanding that, like, you got to be patient, then you're going to feel like your livelihoods, because then you're not going to put all your eggs in the basket and expect it to work in 30 days and not have the adequate finances or job that you're working simultaneously to starting your business to support yourself, because you're being patient. So you're more well prepared. So you're feeling fear less often because you're more prepared and you're not throwing your livelihood on the line every 5 seconds and worried about it. Yeah. Same thing with the challenge. If you're expecting it to be difficult, it's going to alleviate a lot of fear, because then when it comes out, instead of feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing good enough, you're like, oh no, it's not about that. I know it's going to be hard. That's expected. So for me, I gave myself 3 years and promised that myself I'd do a seminar per week to until I broke through as a coach, a speaker. I said, I'm going to do that. That's 150 at least. I'm going to do that until I break through. After 10 weeks, I'd done 12 seminars and I'd broken through financially. But I was willing to give myself 150, and that took all the pressure off for me. It didn't take the fear away, because I still had fear of rejection. I had fear of change, doing new stuff. I was still afraid it wasn't going to work. But see the fear of, even though I invested in a $50,000 coach and I was paying $1,000 a week to this coach back then, I didn't actually have that much fear that my livelihood was on the line, because I knew I was going to do whatever it took long term, and that even if I went backwards a couple of $100,000 over a few years, I'd eventually go forward, because I knew that I could make $1 million a year if I worked hard enough. So that was less of a fear for me. But I gave myself 3 years of weekly seminars to think, well, I may suck initially. I may not be able to sell from stage. I may not be able to, people might not like me. I might not get traction. But after 3 years, surely I'm going to be good. And if I'm not after 3 years, then okay, maybe my dream's not possible. But I gave myself a lot of time. And that's what I want to encourage you to do. I want to encourage you to, like, because I was terrified that I was going to get rejected and no one's going to come to my seminar, or I'm doing the seminar and people are walking out because the info is so bad and people are laughing at me and I forget my words and all these things. So I want you to write all those things down. I want you to write down, well, worst case scenario is I spend a bunch of money on $5,000 on marketing and I don't get any results. No clients come through. I want you to write down the worst case scenarios. Worst case scenario is that I run a seminar and no one shows up. And I want you to create a little bank of scenarios that are challenging, that very well could arise. And I want you to lean more on the side of being more pessimistic. I want you to, like, really think of worst case scenarios. And there might be a part of you right now that's thinking, but I don't want to manifest that. I want to be positive with my language. You see, there's a whole culture of, I actually think I was listening to someone recently talk about this, that mania is is being overly optimistic. It's a mental health condition. It's perceiving that there's going to be more bad than good. More good than bad. It's only going to be good. We're only going to be optimistic. And there's a lot of people that have this in the personal development space. I know it's coming from a well-meaning place, positive intentions, healthy intentions. Be careful of your language. You don't want to say if I'm successful. You want to say when and stuff like this. And I think there's a beautiful, healthy element to it, but also it's important to be realistic. That means groundedness. I'm telling you, from hanging around the multimillionaires that I know, people that have $30 million in the bank, they aren't just completely optimistic. They're pessimistic. They doubt themselves. They're just normal human beings that just have given a lot of value out there and gotten really good in business. But they're not like super genius, Elon Musk, completely invincible people. They're just human beings that are really have deep insecurities, doubt themselves. There's things that they avoid doing in their businesses, but they're imperfect. But they're not walking around being like, they're not using the perfect language and only being optimistic and positive. They're actually very balanced. Very balanced. They're not like super abundant. Some of them are really scared about money, worried about money. Some are more abundant, less abundant. Some are smarter. Some are less intellectually smart. Some work harder. Some don't. So it's when you're feeling insecure and going, oh, business is so good, but I'm not good enough for it. I need to do everything perfect for it to work. No, don't worry about this language on this. Write down the pessimistic stuff. Be skeptical. I want you to write the negative stuff that could happen. I want you to get clear on all of it. I want you to write down, I could get rejected. No one would buy my stuff. I would ask 100 people to work with me and no one would say yes the first 100. And I want you to write down all these things. And then I want you to connect to your dream and go, am I willing to do these things? Not as a punishment tool, but am I willing to go through these? Because there's a good chance that they would happen. It's a chance that you run a seminar and no one shows up. There's a chance that you'd spend $5,000 on marketing and you wouldn't get any results. It's actually healthy and grounding to start to be more balanced with your understanding of the challenge needed and the timing needed. Because that's a very powerful person. That's the person I don't want to compete against. I want to compete against the person that thinks it's going to be easy and doesn't think there's going to be challenge and expects it to be smooth sailing the whole time. I don't want to verse the person that knows what's going to have to they're going to have to go through and is prepared for that. That person's a hard person to beat if I'm thinking competition wise, right? That's the person that's got the greatest chance of having results. So I want you to do that now. Write out what are all the challenges you're going to go through and get clear on it, and then just commit to going through it one at a time and being okay with it and going, yeah, it's part of the learning curve. That's expected. I'll do posts and no one will comment on it. I'll launch a podcast and no one will I'll ask to be on podcasts and no one will say yes. I'll try to reach out to a publishing firm to take on my book and they'll say it's no good. Get clear on that stuff. It'll ground you. It'll ground you and it'll help you be more powerful, have greater chance of succeeding. That's the third one. Let's pivot to number 4. So we've got underestimating the timing. We've got underestimating the challenge. We've got being stuck in fear. Now we're going to overestimating the reward. People overestimate and pedestal the idea of being an entrepreneur. I'm telling you, this isn't the most important point. Maybe not more important than being stuck in fear, but it's the second most important point. People overestimate the reward of being an entrepreneur. They overestimate what it's going to be like. They infatuate and fantasize about the results. And it's an escaping tool. It's like, I'm not satisfied with who I am. I don't feel okay with who I am. So I'm going to lean on the fantasy of this future place I'm going to get to avoid feeling the dissatisfaction I feel with my current situation because I haven't learned to love myself and love life. So I'm going to attach onto this idea that I'm going to get to this magical place in the future called entrepreneurial financial freedom, passive income, get rich quick, flow time. And it's just going to be amazing. And everything's going to be great. And there's this real immature understanding of what it's actually going to be like. And it's very, very toxic for results, because what it presupposes is that it's kind of hinges on one layer. It hinges on the thing I was saying as the last point, where people underestimate the challenge. If you're thinking it's going to be good, it's because you're not seeing the drawbacks of being an entrepreneur. If you don't feel satisfied with your life as an employee, you ain't going to feel satisfied with it as an entrepreneur. Yeah, because if you're an employee, it's where you're meant to be now, at the moment, right now in this moment, until you quit, and you're not meant to be there anymore. So right now you're meant to be there. And if you can't learn to be where you're meant to be and see the beauty of it, it's not going to get better as an entrepreneur. It's going to get worse. You know, a lot of people go into entrepreneurship thinking, I'm sick of working for somebody else. And there's this entitlement, there's this resentment towards their boss and the opportunity of being an employee. And they have entitlement. No, they've got resentment towards employment and towards their boss. It's a very unhealthy place to be in, because you're assuming that their life's awesome and that they're doing you wrong and that your life is crap. And I'm not saying that you who are listening to this believe this, but even if there's a hint of it, I think everyone has a hint of it until they've been a successful entrepreneur and had employees. But I notice it with pretty much most employees have entitlement. And what it is, it's a presupposition. It's like an illusion that their life is worse than what it is, and that the person that is running it, their life's better. And it's not seeing the gratitude for what you have. So if my job was to coach a new business owner, a new coach, or a new YouTuber, or any startup, and I had to get them the best results long term, I would want them to fall in love with their job before I started letting them do the business. Seriously, it's going to make their results as an entrepreneur way better, because you're starting to see things more balanced. You don't have this infatuation of life's going to be so good then, and what I have now isn't good. Because we have 11 million bits of information flow into our awareness in every second. 11 million bits, 8 or 11, something around there. But we only really register 40 bits in every second. So the 40 bits of information that your mind's choosing to see when you walk into the workplace in the morning is evidence, or bits that reinforce the idea that it's not good, that that you're not being treated well, and the boss is like this, and the employees aren't like-minded. But until you can get to the point where you can see the beauty and feel the gratitude for the opportunity to be connected to other human beings on a daily basis that you're in the same team with, like, that's your family right now. Until it's not, it is, right? That's your life. This is your best life right now. You're not going to find more fulfillment in entrepreneurship. I don't believe I'll ever be more fulfilled than I can be in this exact moment with you. Honestly, don't feel like I can be more fulfilled. I'm going to be way more successful in the future with what I do, because I'm going to keep getting better and put value out there, and it's going to amplify. But life's never going to be more fulfilling than I have the capacity to access now, in this moment. The potential for fulfillment in this moment is the same as what it'll be when I'm on stage in front of 10,000 people or 2,000 people at the Melbourne Exhibition Centre delivering a keynote presentation, and all these people have come. I made $1 million from it, and whoop-de-doo. I'm not going to have, like, all of a sudden I open up a portal for way more fulfillment in that moment and life's way better. No, I'm still doing what I love in this moment. And so this is a lot of people that I've noticed get into entrepreneurship are using it as an escaping tool, because they're not satisfied with who and where they are now. And until you can learn that, it ain't going to get easier in entrepreneurship. In fact, it's probably going to tip you over the edge and break you down when you realize that it's not when you succeed in a big way. It's what happened to me. I was like, it's going to be so awesome, and made over $10 million as an entrepreneur. Lonely as hell. Had all the things. It didn't feel good. Didn't get treated the way that I desired to in relationship, because I didn't deserve it. because I didn't know how to prioritize things. I didn't know about my emotional wounds and trust issues and commitment issues and intimacy blocks. And just, it was like a really big wake up call. Oh, I thought this was going to make me really fulfilled, but it didn't. And it was so much more painful because of the expectation I had. Because I, in the first place, was attempting to escape the moment that I didn't feel satisfied with. I was attempting to escape the person I didn't feel satisfied with. And an affirmation / prayer that I say to myself 4 times a day minimum is who and where I am is perfect. Who and where I am is perfect. I actually say, I'm so grateful that who and where I am are perfect. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And it's true. Another thing I say to myself 4 times a day is fulfillment is here and now in this moment. That doesn't mean I'm like feeling bliss and joy in every moment, but I've got the capacity to access fulfillment in every single moment. Fulfillment is not ecstasy. Ecstasy is elation. And that state takes us further from the truth of fulfillment. Fulfillment is a subtle feeling. And if you don't learn to feel that as an employee, it's going to get harder as an entrepreneur. Maybe that's what you need to do to hit your spiritual awakening point, which is what happened to me, my absolute rock bottom moment to then put me on a spiritual path. But now I do both. And I teach people to do both, to align and integrate both layers, physical, emotional, spiritual layers of reality. Yeah. So the point here is that when you overestimate the reward, it puts so much pressure on the outcome because you're expecting yourself to get to this point where it's going to be amazing. And it's going to be way harder than what you think. It's going to take longer than you think. And it's not going to give you what you think it's going to give you. When you like, all the setbacks are going to be like kryptonite to you. All the setbacks are going to tip you over the edge and disappoint you and frustrate you. And it's a recipe for massive disaster. It also means that you're not feeling gratitude for what you currently have. And it also means that there's entitlement there. And that's a very ineffective way to be a solid entrepreneur and business owner. So I would say, like, if the action step from number 1 being stuck in fear as a block is to come to my workshop and learn and at least give yourself permission to value courage and set the intention to be courageous daily. That's the solution to the first one. The solution to the second one, underestimating the time, is give yourself 3 to 5 years to break through, and give yourself 20 years to actualize and dream bigger than what you currently dream. The action step of the third one, which is underestimating the challenges, to write all the worst case scenarios and all the roadblocks that probably will come up and be really like negative and pessimistic with it. And the solution to overestimating the reward is find the gratitude of what you already have so you don't despise it. Because this is what happens. People feel insecure. They think that they're going to be some amazing person when their business works and their status is going to be awesome. Not consciously, but at a deep level. It's going to be so amazing. I'm going to be so lovable. I'm going to finally be successful. I'm going to get a message from my dad saying, I'm proud of you. And it's all just going to be amazing. If that's the expectation, then when business is not going to plan and you need to do something like get a job again, it becomes really difficult because you're like, oh crap, I was bad to begin with. I was trying to be good by being an entrepreneur. I was less than, I'm going to be more than, better than when I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to be better than normal people. I'm like one of those like-minded, amazing, driven people. And then if you have to force to go get a job again, which might just be a necessary step for you, you're in a predicament now because you're afraid that everyone's going to look at you as a failure because you actually judged everyone that wasn't an entrepreneur beforehand. You were judging people for not having the courage to take the leap because you're actually judging yourself for not taking the leap. So you've got this like negative view that you've been holding towards people, and you've been looking down at the people that aren't entrepreneurs, up to people that are entrepreneurs. And now in order to get a job, you got to look down at yourself again. And you're afraid that everyone's going to judge you for being a failure and not being good enough. You were never good enough to cut it. But you were never bad in the first place. That's the truth. You weren't worse as an employee than you will be as an entrepreneur. And you won't be better as an entrepreneur than you were as an employee. And if you can find the gratitude and the love for yourself and your situation as an employee, that's a very powerful place to be. Because then you don't You're not externalizing all your self-worth and throwing it on the line 24/7 as an entrepreneur. You can do what's required to break through so that you get to live a more aligned life for you. Not so you get to be better than other people and have some massive status. You just get to have a more aligned life. That's it. Get to do what you love to do more, right? But if you're trying to prove yourself with it, you're not even going to give yourself permission to do what you love. So the antidote for this last one, overestimating the reward, is to find gratitude for your life now. Find it. Trust me, you do that, it'll alchemize this situation. And if you can stop overestimating the reward, stop underestimating the challenge, and stop underestimating the time taken, it's going to get rid of a ton of fear that's unnecessarily coming up. You're still going to feel it a lot, but it's going to be less overwhelming if you can do those things I've prescribed. Okay. And that's going to allow you to be a grounded, heart-centered, connected, powerful entrepreneur that will break through in time and crush it in the long term. Yeah. And your life's not going to be worse until that. You might hear the long term, that sucks, I want to do it now. Well, you can do what you love now. If you love singing and you want to be a successful singer, you can still sing today. If you love coaching and you want to be a successful coach, you can still help people today. You can do it live right now and be of service. You don't have to withhold the service. It's just withholding the point at which you're going to meet your current attachment, and in a realistic way. Yeah. So if you're really connected to what you love, it won't really bother you as much how long it takes. Like, I'm not waiting for my fulfillment to do what I love until I've broken through. I'm doing it now. I did it today. Yesterday morning, I did a keynote. Yesterday, throughout the day, I did coaching sessions. I just got back from a book writing retreat in Queensland. Like, I'm doing what I love now. I haven't obtained my entire goal and hit that big milestone that I'm my head wants to hit, but my gosh, I'm still doing what I love every day. And that's a powerful place to be, because that makes it easy for me to actually grow and keep moving forward and being bigger and more successful, because I'm happy being small as well. And that is a powerful place to be. And that's what I'm inviting you to. So in summary, do the Art of Courage workshop. Seriously, give me the chance to support you to have the most wholesome and powerful way of approaching your life, your purpose, your relationships, your state, by taking the $750,000 and the 15 years of work and the full implementation and embodiment of the hardcore extremes of plant medicine and meditation and the deep healing work and the psychology work and working with psychotherapists and doing the mindset stuff and hardcore doing everything that Tony Robbins stands for and building a $10 million plus business and going down all these extremes to land on an integrative approach to all of those layers of life into one solution, the core method. Core is the Latin root word of courage. It means heart. To be courageous means to be in your heart. To be in your heart means connected to your power. To be in your heart means fulfillment. Fulfillment is the purpose of life. There's a unified way to live your life that integrates it all. You will have more time freedom, more confidence, more inner peace, more deep connection and intimacy. If you haven't found your soulmate, finding your soulmate. You will have your purpose and clarity on your purpose and more success with your purpose and amplify the amount of money that you make. All connects into one way to approach life. And I teach that at the Art of Courage workshop. And I want to gift that to you. Please give yourself that gift. And if finances are that big of an edge, I've tried to make it affordable for everyone, significantly cheaper than what I've charged for any other offer before. And it's by far the most valuable thing I've ever facilitated. 3 solid, thorough days of devotional service for you to learn and master a way to approach life that is sustainable, wholesome, connected, all about alignment, all for you and your authenticity, and teaching you everything you need to know about fear and how to overcome it. Come along. That's the invitation. And I do one-to-one coaching. So if you want support one-to-one, please reach out to me. And if you haven't connected with me yet, just to say, hey, shoot me a message on Instagram at @TheRyanMagic, or email me, ryan@ryanmagic.com. If you want to find out any information about working with me, go to ryanmagic.com. Thank you for tuning in today. I love you guys. I'm going to keep pouring as much into you as I can through this medium. And I appreciate you guys so much for giving me the chance to do what I freaking love. So thank you. Love you guys. Peace out. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.